As a porn star, sexting is complicated. I'm a better performer now since I started directing. Someone saw it and someone liked it enough to give me a trophy. So that must mean I'm doing something right? A man sent me his stamp collection to set on fire. Hey, I'm Casey Calvert.
I'm Leanna Lovings.
I'm Corey Chase.
Hi, I'm Lauren Phillips.
Hi, I'm Bree Mills, and you're listening to the Adult Time Podcast. All right, well, welcome so much to the podcast, Casey.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here today.
Happy to have you. I don't even, we could start on so many fronts, but I think the place I want to start is the first time we ever met.
Okay.
What do you remember about that day?
I don't know if I remember exactly the first day we ever met because I remember the first time we worked together.
Which I think was the first time we actually met.
But I don't know. Yeah, okay. So the first time we worked together was a pure taboo scene. I remember where it was. I remember the location. I remember who the scene was with. I remember that it was a long day. And I remember that we made something nuts.
Something that we really probably, well, no, I don't, well, we couldn't really make it today, I don't think.
We couldn't actually make it today. I feel like we shot that pure taboo scene. What year was it?
2017, that would have been. That was like within the first dozen Pure Taboo episodes, because I also remember the location and the time and place, and it would have been in that first dozen, I think. And those were like the edgiest dozen.
It is edge play. Like it is verging really into the like consensual non-consent territory of like really hardcore role play.
Yeah.
We had fun.
It was, I mean,
it
listen.
was a fun day.
I remember I knew the only thing that I knew about you was that you were a published writer for like the Huffington Post. And so I was like I don't want to say intimidated. I would say like I was excited to meet you because I knew you were cool shit.
Thanks. I will say that people back then were and still are get intimidated by me. That is a thing I experience frequently. It's not something that I take as an insult anymore. I used to be like, why? Like I am small and I am shy. Why are you intimidated by me? I am nothing. But that is my own patterns in my brain. And actually now that I have done therapy, I understand why I can come across as intimidating. But yeah, what I remember from that day, more than anything else, is as we started to get into the sex scene, me suggesting a specific position and you being like, yeah, let's do it. And it like setting the tone for the whole scene. Because we did it was like a Handmaid's Tale position. I was like, she's going to lay on my lap and he's going to do his and it was fun. I genuinely, but also I like that kind of really edgy stuff. That's fun for me. I enjoy exploring that kind of sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun.
Yeah, well, and your character was the real. I mean, I like to think with Pure Taboo that good people do bad things and bad people are human. So there's no real villains. But I would say if we were going to peg a villain in that particular episode, it would have been your character.
I was a bad guy, which was great because at the time, no one hired me to be the bad guy. I was still always like the girl next door, like very sweet and very innocent. And so I was like, I get to be the bad guy.
And I think maybe that's why so the episode is called Don't Talk to Strangers.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's still
I don't know if it is either.
It probably is in some dark corner if you're curious. But in any case, it was a lot of those original episodes that I wrote were very inspired by true cases that had happened over the years. And that one, was definitely inspired by a case. And what made your character so kind of cutting and villainous was the fact that you're so presentable on the surface, but have this like icy, terrible inside. And I don't want to say that that's what I thought of you, because I always write like, even in that case, I didn't know you, but I knew, okay, here's somebody who, obviously, I think you were a Spiegler girl even back then. So like, I knew like you were coming in with a certain experience, a certain cachet as a performer, but you also were clearly very intellectual, very like savvy, very smart. And that was what this character was. So I didn't think you were an ice queen, but I knew that there was something to you that was like, that there, you had layers.
Yes, I am a little bit of an ice queen.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. It's fun to be a bad guy. Like it's fun to explore that psychology.
Yeah. So anybody who wants to go down that rabbit hole,
could
please
go find it. I'm sure. Yes, I'm sure it is on the internet.
It is on the internet somewhere.
So
that was how we first met.
Yeah.
And obviously we've worked together in many ways and many times over the years. But let us now go back to the beginning.
Okay.
How did you get into this industry? Sort of sum up your story for me, if you will.
Yes, I'll do the somewhat succinct version of my story. So I was in college. I was in film school. I was very disillusioned about moving to LA to make movies. One of the classes that I took as an elective was First Amendment law. And in that class, we learned about porn for most of the class. And we learned about porn from a free speech perspective. And at the time, I thought that porn was illegal. I thought it was akin to prostitution, that it was something that happens, but that is illegal to make, is illegal to watch, was kind of what I was taught, was that it's illegal. I learned that it wasn't. So I was curious. I went online, looked at stuff. It's like, oh, this is interesting. Pretty soon after that class finished, I took that class a fall semester, and by like February of the spring, I started nude modeling. And I was nude modeling and art modeling, and that turned into fetish modeling, and that turned into doing essentially everything but fluid exchange. That was my limit. And at the time I was like, I'm not making porn, I'm just a fetish model. I was making porn. I just wasn't having sex with people on camera. Graduated from college. Again, feeling super disillusioned about like, I'm going to move to LA and try to make it in the industry. But I loved modeling and I loved performing. And it was the first time in my life that I had any self-confidence about anything that I was doing. And a friend of mine, a photographer friend, connected me with Spiegel. And Spiegel wanted to sign me. The deal was I moved to LA and I can be a Spiegel girl. So I did. And now I'm here.
And now you're here. And now you're on the Adult Time podcast.
12 years later.
What you mentioned that, your understanding of porn up until taking that class was sort of that it's this thing that's, shrouded away in dark corners and essentially like illegal. And, what's your first memory do you have a first memory of seeing porn itself?
I did the like band thing in middle school, and it was band practice. And a friend of mine was like, oh, you have a computer in your bedroom. Logged into that dial-up internet, and it was gay porn. That's what I remember. I don't remember anything more than it was two cis men. I don't remember what they were doing. I don't remember what they looked like, but I just remember being like, oh, it's boys kissing. I've never seen boys kiss before. Huh.
It's so funny because my first introduction to porn was also gay porn.
Oh, really?
Yeah. My dad, who is gay, it was one evening we were watching the Little Mermaid VHS.
Okay.
And didn't finish it, and I left it in the player. And the next morning I went in to finish it, and it was two dudes on a motorcycle, and it was not the Little Mermaid. And I watched the entire thing, just glued to the screen. What am I seeing? So yeah.
If my memory serves me, I watched like 15 seconds of it, and then it was over, or the internet, it
was dial-up.
It was dial-up. It wasn't streaming. It wasn't the way porn is so accessible now. I don't know where she found it. I don't know. I just was like, oh, huh. But then I had this moment of being like, I wonder what else is on the internet.
And did your curiosity lead you down to find out, or was it really once you had that kind of class all those years later where you're like, maybe I should go check this out? So
it did for a couple months. And then I was like, I can't do it. So much shit. So genuinely, I'm joking about it, but like genuinely internalized so much shame about what I was looking up and what I was seeing, and like just like internalized all of this shame about my sexuality and the things that turned me on, that I like couldn't continue to look at it, and then never looked again until I took this class when I was 20.
I'm nervous.
What the fuck are you nervous about?
I mean, we haven't seen each other since we all went off to college to begin with. What if they don't even like me anymore?
Spin around. Are you trying to impress someone?
You look great.
Hi.
This is my girlfriend. I hope you don't mind if she crashes your party.
We're gonna relive high school. Let's relive high school.
Oh my god. I think we're one sleeping bag short.
She'll be fine.
Will she though?
It's because you did everything you could to make her feel excluded.
So did you.
Okay, but the difference is I'm gonna make it up to her.
So I'm leaving because you don't want Morgan thinking I'm your girlfriend?
I just don't want to confuse them.
I don't want them thinking I'm your girlfriend either.
Look at you. You came back from college hot.
What, when you think back on media and pop culture, were there other influences that you can recall that kind of helped to shape your sexuality, even if at the time you didn't realize it? But looking back now, you're like, I remember that.
I wish so badly that I did. My media consumption was very, very monitored. I wasn't allowed to watch PG-13 movies until I turned 13. Very supervised. And so I don't think I really saw, like, if I saw something, it didn't stick. It didn't, I don't know. I wish I did. Like, I'd love to have this story. I feel like so many people have the, like, I saw this or I experienced, like, whatever. And I don't, and I want to, but I don't.
Well, but that kind of makes it all the more interesting that what sort of, in a way, like what sparked that eureka moment from you was like a lecture.
Yeah. I very distinctly remember learning about double penetration in that class because we were talking about industry rates and sitting next to my friend and having not had sex at this time. I don't really believe in virginity as a construct, but sure, whatever. I was a virgin, so was she. And sitting next to her and being like it had never, just like anatomically being like, how? I don't get it. And just like that's such just, and now being like, I should double anal. Whatever.
Have you ever had any contact with that professor?
Oh yeah, that's Professor Calvert.
Ah, well, there you go. Okay.
And I have lectured in his class multiple times. He's very aware of what I do. When I won Director of the Year, he was one of the first people to text me. He is retired now. And in hindsight, it was the rudest, most obnoxious thing I ever could have done to take his name as my stage name. Oh my God, like what a terrible, awful thing for me to do. But I never thought I was going to be, I thought I was just doing a little modeling, like whatever. It never occurred to me that I was going to be here. And so thank God he's wonderful about it. He actually thinks it's great. He loves that I took his name. He's really cool.
Well, that's awesome, actually.
Yeah, we talk on the phone a couple times a year.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. What you showed up in you obviously you contacted Spiegel. You came to LA. What are your early memories about being on sets, and what were some of the biggest sort of lessons you learned within that first year or so?
So what I remember is thinking so many times, oh wow, this is so professional. Oh wow, we're making movies. Spiegel called me once to say, you have to stop telling them how to set up their lights. They're getting mad at you. And I was like, why? But I'm helping. He's like, they don't want your help. And I remember having to learn that lesson of like, oh, I'm here to be a performer. I'm not here to tell whoever how to set up their lights. But But I remember compared to the fetish modeling world being like, oh, this is just people at work. We're all just people at work doing our jobs.
And you mentioned, obviously going to film school and then becoming a performer. There was that period where you needed to, I hate to say it, but kind of like get in the lane of being a performer and not being a member of the crew.
Yeah.
For those who don't know your story, you've obviously gone on to like run very successful crews, be a successful producer and director. How did that evolution come about for you from, starting out in this industry as just a performer and then gradually taking up more space or at least equal space behind the camera?
So when I got into the industry, it never occurred to me that maybe one day I'd be directing. At the time I was in a relationship with someone and we had a deal that I would do porn for 5 years. Then I was going to quit and make babies and go about my life, whatever. That obviously didn't last, didn't work out, wasn't whatever. But I never had this thought of like, oh, I'm going to get into the industry. I'm going to be an actor and then I'm going to start directing. Like that genuinely never occurred to me. Around 2016-ish was maybe when I started to be like, maybe there's more for me to do here. At the time, I was still really just actively performing, but I was also running a pretty successful custom video business. It was, pre fan sites being a thing. And so if fans wanted custom videos, they had to come to a producer who shot custom videos. And so I was doing that and producing these customs, and it was doing well. And it wasn't really until you suggested that I be a director that it ever even really occurred to me that might be something I would be good at. Like,
you want to just
do the thing. In film school, I was very adamant that I did not want to be a director. I was a producer. I always I'm a producer. I will facilitate your ideas. That's what I want to do. I want to be a producer. I was like, you be the director. I will be the producer.
Why do you think that is?
My temperament is very producery, for lack of a better way to describe it. I like organization. I like planning. I like putting things into their little boxes and making sure everything is checked off and complete and all that stuff. And I still approach directing very much from a producerial standpoint. Mm-hmm. It has taken time and years for me to be like, actually, I can let someone else worry about paperwork. I can do my job. But so the story is that you talked to Spiegel, or Spiegel called me. So the version of the story from my side, let me not try to tell it from like the objective side. The story is from my side is that Spiegel called me one night, very late at night, and was like, hey, Bree Mills is going to call you. She's going to offer you a directing job and you're going to say yes. And I was like, okay. And then within 24 hours, you called me.
So you want to know the other side of the story?
Yeah.
Well, I find it's really funny because, again, for probably a lot of our listeners know the name Spiegel because it comes up quite often on this podcast. Mark Spiegel is a agent in the industry, and the Spiegel Girls Agency is one of, the most sort of, well-known and well-respected agency, and has, had a lot of really, successful performers be a part of it. So, he's kind of like he's like a granddad in the industry in the sense, you go to Spiegel for advice, or, Spiegel will kind of tell you sometimes, and you're gonna listen.
Yeah. He knows things. He knows things.
He just knows things.
He knows.
He's like the wise old sage of the porn industry. So, it's funny that, in your early years, he kind of hit you up and said, hey, stay in your lane. Don't be telling the crew members to check lighting. Because fast forward however many years later, he I don't know how the conversation started, but I do distinctly remember him telling me in his, very matter-of-fact way, you need to get more female directors. You should talk to Casey Calvert. So, at that point I knew, obviously we'd worked together a lot. Yeah. We'd done some creative collab work, but I knew what you were doing in terms of customs. And you're right at the time, and I think I want to bounce back to ask you a little bit more about that. Mm-hmm. But but I knew that you had that under your belt. And a lot of people in our business, you know, they kind of grow up through the business. So it's not like you have a ton of people that are, you know, acclaimed directors or producers outside of the industry that come in. Like you kind of, a lot of people learn and start in one place and grow into another place. So the place that you were at was as, you know, capable a place to work with as, you know, anybody else. So I remember just feeling very compelled to take his advice at that moment for a variety of reasons. And he sort of set us up.
Yeah, he did. I very much feel like I wouldn't be anywhere without Spiegler. I owe my career to Spiegler without a doubt. But yeah, I do feel like this was a moment where he pulled some strings, or he pressed some buttons, or whatever,
like Cupid,
metaphor.
he coordinated.
Yes, yeah, he did a like, shh, you two kiss.
Yeah, exactly. In the most platonic, creative way, you two need to hook up right now and do something. And so, so then we brought you in to direct Girlsway, which was the first studio that I ever show run, right? So, and the first projects I ever directed were for our Girlsway studio. So yeah, definitely an interesting kind of, you know, sort of roundabout way that we ended up coming together. But the work that we gave you was quite, you know, like episodic. We shoot a lot of, you know, vignette episodes of stuff. Tell us a little bit about maybe some of the lessons you learned in the first year, 2 years of directing with us, and then, you know, what you learned in the years after.
Man, I learned so much doing those scenes for Girlsway that I don't know even how to begin answering this question. I remember that was really what I learned then was like, oh, I can be a director. And was like, oh, I can communicate in this way with people. And figuring out how to actually do that and how to communicate direction to different people in the different ways that they need direction communicated to them. Where some people, you know, just need to be told, like, you walk here, then say this. That doesn't work for some people. Some people need more of an emotional style of directing, just all different kinds of, and just like figuring all of that out and doing so much learning about cameras and lighting and stuff. Cause, you know, the cameras that I learned on in school were tape, like we recorded on tape. And so just learning technology stuff, and also just like learning porn producing in a way that I hadn't learned, that I knew some from doing customs, but having to do it at a significantly larger scale, you know, instead of twice a month became 10 days a month. Just like learning ins and outs of the industry that I didn't know.
What were some of the biggest lessons there that you're willing to share?
Make sure people get tested before they're seen. But it is just stuff like that, like put like what to put in a call sheet. Putting, you know, how to communicate wardrobe info to someone via their agent to make sure that they actually come to set that day with the clothes that they need. You know, making sure that if you are going to see them in lingerie, even though maybe all you're doing is taking stills, not like also bring lingerie, just like stuff like that definitely wouldn't occur to someone who's not in the industry to put into a call sheet, but even I think wouldn't necessarily occur to someone who would be coming over from the mainstream industry working in adult, of like the little intricacies of what we do and the way that we make things happen are so specific and so internal. Like we have such a vernacular about what we do, and I had to learn that vernacular because I had only received it. So I knew what was like bad, but I had to figure out what was good and what worked for me.
One of the things that I'm a big believer in is that the next generation of like great creative talent in our industry, and it's already happening, but it's really going to come from people who've been in front of the camera that have talent and are transitioning behind the camera. And I think there's something really unique about having the performer perspective that you can bring into being the producer and the director. Did you find that was a real added value for you in your transition?
To this day, I am a better director because I am an active performer. and I am a better performer. I am a better performer now since I started directing than I ever was before. They complement each other. I learn from one job and put it into the other job all the time.
So it's sort of like a great symbiotic, one feeds the other.
Yeah, and it also, I think, keeps me from being bored. Because I still love I love performing. I love being in front of the camera and performing, and I love acting. And all of this is still so fun for me. If it ever wasn't fun, I would just be a director and a producer, and I could do that. But it's still really fun for me to like do all the different kinds of performing jobs that I do. And it keeps me very engaged in what I'm doing, because it's like, oh, well, today I'm going to go be a slut. Then I'm going to go home and I'm going to work on a script. And like that works for my brain.
Oh my God, I'm so nervous. I've just never done anything like this before. I've been wanting it for so long, and I know it's going to be amazing in there. So just remember, whatever happens, I'm with you. I'm ready. This is so cool. Oh my God.
Tell me what it felt like when you won Director of the Year.
It was nuts. What I remember more than anything else is they were announcing the names. And everyone cheered for me. And everyone screamed and clapped louder for me than anyone else. And in that moment, I was like, cool, I won. Doesn't fucking matter. I won. And then they said my name, and then that was it. Like, I just like didn't know what to think, didn't know what to feel. Somehow, by some miracle, I managed to say something eloquent on stage. How? I do not know, because I don't really remember. I have it on video, but I don't really remember in my brain past that moment of like, oh, shit, everyone supports me. I have the support of my peers. To being backstage, taking my winner circle pictures and saying to the photographer, I'm so sorry, if I don't sit down, I'm gonna pass out. And so taking those pictures sitting on the ground. That like the being on, I don't remember. It's just a blur. Which is kind of fun, I think. Like, I don't mind that I can't remember it. Like, I have the feeling of it, and that's
the adrenaline.
The like crazy adrenaline.
Yeah.
But also what I'll say is that like since I won, because I'd always been like, oh, a trophy is a trophy, whatever. I have some trophies from performing, like, whatever. It doesn't actually really change anything. But that one did. Somehow that one did. Not necessarily professionally, although I do think it gave me some like professional reputation, whatever, that made people feel comfortable hiring me, I guess. But really what it changed for me was I'm bad with imposter syndrome. It's a big, big thing for me. My whole career been a big thing for me. And I have my envelope that has my name in it sitting on my mirror, like on my vanity mirror. So I see it pretty much every single day. And looking at it for like a month and just being like, oh, there it is. It's like, oh, someone saw you. Someone appreciated your work. Maybe it's not everyone in the industry appreciates what you do, because I do feel like I have a somewhat unique approach to what I do. But someone saw it and someone liked it enough to give me a trophy. So that must mean I'm doing something right. And the imposter syndrome got so much better, and it made my work since then, I think, better, because I wasn't spending so much time flipping out on set going, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm not allowed to be doing this. Someone else, this is all a joke. It's all pretend. And so that was all, that's been cool.
It's funny because when you mentioned earlier that, you never saw yourself as a director and just as a producer, and that it was the one thing you had to come to terms with. It definitely is. I very much had the same thing in my career as well, where I just work with actors. I don't work with the crew at all, or, and then, gradually you come to realize, I actually know a lot more than I think, or, the confidence comes with time, but it's not bad to get a boost like that as well.
It's not bad.
It's not
ever, like, we'll remember that day forever.
Yeah. Now that, I will kind of want to bring us up to speed because we could just talk for hours about that. I want to ask you a couple questions about customs.
Yeah.
The world of customs is fascinating.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you, first of all, what is the strangest, or let's be respectful. What's the most unique custom you've ever received?
I appreciate that very much because I get asked what's the weirdest, what's the strangest all the time. And my answer always is none of them. I don't want to disparage my clients. And also, like, what does weird mean? That could mean anything. So unique. It's very hard to answer, like, what is the most singularly unique? But a man sent me his stamp collection to set on fire. And I know that is a somewhat famous custom video, was interviewed in John Ronson's podcast, The Butterfly Effect, about it. But still to this day, nothing can quite beat the stamp collection custom.
I think my wife was in that one.
Oh, maybe.
I think she was maybe in that one with you, or she was in like a subsequent.
So the stamps man hired a couple different producers and split up his collection between a couple different producers. So she might have, mine was solo.
Okay, so and then with Anatomic Media.
Yes,
yeah.
with another, and that was the moment of like, I learned a lot about customs making that podcast and made some friends and but Stamps Man, very unique.
And I want, I guess it just to getting to the heart of that, it's the fantasy of seeing something that's so coveted that you've worked so hard to create be taken over by somebody that you desire.
Exactly. Be destroyed. Be genuinely destroyed in a sexual way. I think that tracks to me. Like that arousal pattern totally tracks. Like that makes sense. Like
you get that.
I get that one. Yeah.
I've always found that doing custom work is fascinating just because it allows you to really understand beyond the surface, quote unquote, weirdness or strangeness of a request, the real heart of a request.
Yeah. It's also just like everyone's sexuality is different.
Oh, yeah.
Every single person. And so to me, making a custom for someone is like taking their paragraph-long request and pulling out from it the specific things that are the things that turn them on and making sure like I focus on this, even if they package it in, I don't know, an office story. But, I'm tearing my pantyhose in a very specific way and knowing that like that's what's important and filming that and capturing that so that I can make this person really happy.
Do you do a lot of custom work still to this day?
I do. Yeah, I do. I love doing them. I think a lot of performers find it very tedious, for lack of a better word. I think it's the most fun.
And now they get to have their customs shot by an award-winning performer and director, right? Which is like a little added cachet to that custom, I suppose.
I will say that the majority of my custom clients want it to stay really amateur. That it is about just like me doing my thing. It's chill. Shoot it on the nice camera, but I'm not hiring a full crew unless the client specifically requests. Occasionally they will say like, I want it to look like a Girlsway scene. Especially when I was like very actively directing for Girlsway, I would get people ordering essentially just Girlsway scenes. Specific to them, but essentially just Girlsway scenes.
Well, that's a very good segue because I want to plug something that we've got that's coming up.
Let's plug it.
So who or what are you running away from?
was a bad situation. We don't want to talk about it.
I don't like this situation, and I don't like her. This was supposed to be our special night.
I'm out of here. You can deal with them yourself.
Wait, where are you going? You brought them here. Don't leave me here with those freaks.
Pretty sure he's gone.
Yeah, but for how long?
Long enough.
I don't like it. Something's not right here.
Do you remember what almost happened last time?
I don't want to stay here any longer than you have to.
Well, then let's find out where they keep their money and get out of here.
So you know, have been in the industry 12 years, you know, accomplished performer, accomplished director. Obviously you worked, you know, with us, you've worked with other companies as well. Shout out Less Cinema, shout out, you know, kink.com. Now you're kind of coming back and working with Adult Time again in a new way. Can you speak a little bit about that? And then we're going to plug the cool new project we've got coming up.
Yeah. So I'm a new Adult Time ambassador and it's so fun. New as of March of this year, which actually is only 1 month ago, but feels like 6. Yeah, it just feels like coming home. Like, and I mean, besides obviously that I got my directing start with Girlsway and with Adult Time, I have continued to work with this brand. I mean, I've worked with this brand since the beginning. And so being an ambassador now is just like, yeah, this is where I fit in. Like, these are my friends. Like, we're going to hang out here and we're going to do some cool stuff. And I'm really excited about cool stuff because we're doing some cool stuff.
So tell us a little bit about one of those cool projects we've got that we're filming in just a few weeks.
Oh my God.
Not to put any stress whatsoever on you at all.
Filming in, not enough time from now. I am directing a Girlsway feature. It's called SPUN, and I don't want to give too much of this. I don't want to give the story away.
You should.
But what I'll say is that it is very much Casey Calvert returning to Girlsway. And I'm really excited about taking all of the things that I've learned from the past couple of years of directing and bringing that back to the fans at Girlsway who are just like, they're just so good. They just are like, these are the Girlsway fans and they have the thing that they like. And I'm so excited to like bring my style into the thing that they like and make this like such a fun Girlsway movie. Really stoked. Also, I have some really cool girls in the movie that I'm very excited about working with.
Well, and it's really sweet as well because, you know, obviously you got your start directing with Girlsway, but Girlsway was really like, Girlsway is kind of the origin, the original origin series of Adult Time, right? Because it was the first original studio that we ever created. So like the first movies that I ever did were Girlsway movies. So and we have not done a Girlsway movie in like a good number of years. In fact, I think Cougar Queen was the last one.
So Cougar Queen was also the first movie that ever won. I think it won Best Parody or something.
No, okay. So Cougar Queen, just walk us through what Cougar Queen was.
Okay. So in 2020, COVID happened, and every company was scrambling to figure out like, what are we going to do? We can't go to work. So I directed an entire feature via Zoom. And honestly, like I learned so much about I learned more directing Cougar Queen than any other movie I've ever done because I couldn't be in the room. And so all of my directing things that were like all my crutches, I couldn't use because I wasn't in the room. So I had to do it all speaking and communicate, just Tiger King parody.
Yeah, you know, like it was a time and a place.
It was 2020 and the world was ending. And at the time, it made sense to do this parody movie with a bunch of girls who are all trapped at home. Most of them are doing solos in the movie. We have a couple of girl scenes with girls who are performers and roommates. So they were already in each other's little COVID bubbles. And I talked them through setting up cameras. They shot on their phones, setting up their phones where I wanted their phones, and setting up lights and trying as hard as I could to direct them from my house.
I remember it's actually kind of a nice testament to the team we have at Adult Time, but I remember when, March, whatever, when the lockdown first happened, that there was this sort of crisis, 48 hours. We're like, oh my gosh, everybody's out of work. What do we do? Do we have enough inventory? How long are we going to be able to keep releasing content? And then we just switched into like creative mode. We're like, all right, what can we do? Zoom directing. And it was like, we had you make that movie. I did a film that was with actually Michael Vegas and Susie Q, the first project I worked with them. And now they're a regular crew with us. That was also all remote directed.
I do remember that. Yeah.
We just
did what we had to do.
We did what we had to do. And it was short-lived. I would say like,
Which is for the best.
For the best. We released a few of these like Zoom. I remember directing, like, I think it was like Serene Siren and Kenna James, each in their own homes, a side-by-side split screen.
Oh, I remember exactly that scene.
I was like, this might be it. This might be the future. And fans were like, yeah, this is cute.
Fans
we support
like,
you for a day, and then we want our scenes back.
Yeah, the fans, I remember the fans being like, okay, I guess we get it. Sure. And then very quickly into like, actually, we'd like to see movies with cameras that are in close-ups and
we want the people back together.
We'd like people to be doing the thing that they do that we're paying for. Yeah. Thank you so much. If you could just make COVID go away and like.
And at that point,
we did it.
Our story continues because at that point you had a studio space at that time, which we made our exclusive studio space for that period of time so that we could disinfect it and keep it contained. And there was one pesky fly that would fly in every scene that our membership dubbed the Gamma Fly, which is the name of our parent company. And then we had a period of time where, we were shooting real scenes again with the Gamma Fly in the background.
That studio was an adventure.
It was an adventure for all of us.
It was an adventure for everyone.
And thank goodness you had that and it was available. And we could, that's how we continued to make the porn.
You guys were interested because we were locked into a lease that was not good.
Yeah.
And so it did work out for everyone. And when that lease was over, I was very glad to leave that studio behind. And I think everyone was as well.
Well, but by that point, we had definitely shot it out.
Oh, yeah.
By that point, we had definitely shot it out. But yeah, if anybody wonders what we have to do to keep the porn a-flowing, we just, we do what we do what we got to do and we get creative.
I think a lot of people think about the industry that we're just like, having some fun and everyone's fucking everyone and we're just like pointing a camera at some sluts and everyone's doing their thing. And it's like, no, actually we're like corporations doing business.
Yeah. Just spending hours upon hours trying to get the right lighting set up.
Exactly. Like as boring as possible for everyone who has this fantasy about the industry. No, it's actually really boring. It's boring.
Yeah. There you go, folks.
Yep, that's the key takeaway from me
from the
today.
Cinema. Well, that is a great segue to go into some rapid fire.
Okay, I'm excited.
Questions. I know that you shoot a lot of BDSM content.
Yeah.
Okay, and a lot of fetish content.
I do.
What are some aspects of BDSM fetish culture that you wish people knew more about?
My answer for that is actually my same answer if you were just talking about generalized mainstream porn, which is so much about this is communication and consent. Like that is the core of what we are doing, especially with BDSM. Everything is so negotiated. Everything is so specified. And the person who is not in control is actually the most in control.
Monogamy or non-monogamy?
Non-monogamy.
Why?
Because I'm going to cheat on you if we're monogamous. That's my joke answer. My serious answer is I don't think there's a cap on love. And I'd like to be able to explore whatever might be.
Do you prefer sexting or phone sex?
Sexting. Not a huge phone call person, generally speaking. I'm of that very specific generational thing where phone calls are not, unless it's like a drive and a chat. Sexting.
It's going to be a sext, yeah.
It's going to be a sext, yeah. But sexting is fun.
Do you typically initiate the sexting, or are you the recipient of the sexting, or it really depends?
Really depends on my dynamic with that person.
Do you ever have imposter syndrome while sexting? I say this as somebody who like can't sext ever.
This is not a rapid fire answer. But as a porn star, sexting is complicated because people think that I'm supposed to be really good and like I take the, really good at taking nudes and really good at like dirty talk and all of these things. And when I'm performing and in the headspace of like, I'm being Casey and I'm performing, I am good at those things. When I'm connecting with someone, when I'm not actively like being Casey, I kind of actually don't want to do those things. And so I have this worry of like, oh, I'm disappointing them. They want that experience and that's not what I'm bringing. So yes, the answer is yes, I do have imposter syndrome about sexting, and it is like somewhat fraught for me. And I like to have negotiation conversations about what I can offer via sext so that everyone's on the same page.
So really like removing the sexiness out of the sexting.
Well, have the conversation and then the conversation's been had so that in a future sext, the conversation doesn't necessarily need to happen again. And then like a dynamic gets worked out where like everyone's on the same page. But yes.
It sounds like a well-produced sex.
See, I'm a producer.
There you go. All right. Bush or no bush?
Oh, both. How do you pick one of those? I have on my own body, I would prefer to have no bush. There's an answer to that question.
Gilf or DILF? Choose one.
Is Gilf grandma?
I think so.
And DILF is dead?
I suppose so. I'm just the messenger here.
I'm just clarifying. Dads are hot, genuinely. So DILF, I guess.
All right, my last one for you. Oh no, I've got two.
Okay.
What's your favorite role play scenario?
Honestly, I guess I am like a consensual non-consent person at like the core of if I'm doing role play. I do like teacher-student.
Are you the teacher or are you the student?
Depends on the other person.
Oh, there you go. Well produced. Lastly, do you know your body count?
It's probably somewhere between 150 and 200 is my guess. I do have a list. I have a spreadsheet.
What? Okay. Okay. When did you start the spreadsheet? Has this been like a point of organization since the beginning? Did you have to do some reconciliation?
So it's specifically an on-camera spreadsheet. And then at some point, I don't know, in like 2015 or so, I was like, I'm going to make a list. So I have a list of my like purely off-camera sexual encounters. But I have a spreadsheet of like the date and the company it was for, the name of the person and like some notes on the person, or if I like really didn't like working with that person, I made some notes. And I started doing that from day one of porn. And it was partly to keep track of STI tracing and partly to keep track of like I was meeting so many new people and I couldn't keep them straight because I was, now my list is like, oh yeah, it's Michael Vegas again. Oh, there he is again. There's Seth. It's like this, it's the same people that I'm comfortable working with since now I really mostly work from a yes list, not a no list. Mm-hmm. But I still do keep this spreadsheet. I update it once a month. I go when I pay my bills.
This is amazing.
This is like really getting into my psyche right now. When I pay my bills, part of the process of paying my bills and doing like my monthly financial reconciliation stuff that I do is going into this spreadsheet and writing down all the people I worked with that month.
And I assume you can do some advanced filtering so you can find out like who have you been with the most?
I could. Oh yeah, it's a spread. I could
data
sort
mine that
the
shit.
spreadsheet by name and find out who I've worked with the most. Although my guess is it's Cody Steele for boys.
Interesting.
For girls, I bet for girls it's Victoria Vox. But for boys, I feel pretty confident saying it's Cody.
Well, you'll have to let us know.
I will.
You'll have to follow up and let us know.
If this part of the interview makes it onto
it will.
Instagram, I will do the sort and I will leave a comment. Someone's going to have to remind me, but I will leave a comment with the actual answer to this question.
All right. Well, I'm putting in a really good vibes for Cody, good vibes for Victoria Vox. Let's see who the true winners are.
We'll see.
Casey, as always, we could talk for hours, but we'll end it here knowing that there's going to be many more conversations to come. I can't wait to see what you do with SPUN. I can't wait to see what you do as an ambassador, as a performer, as a director. So thank you always. Thank you, Casey. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
We just finished an amazing conversation between myself and Casey Calvert, who is an acclaimed award-winning performer, writer, director, producer, and Adult Time ambassador. Now, I've known Casey for a long time. I am so proud to see how much she has grown and thrived within this industry and what an influence she really is for others who are coming into the business. Now, we had a great conversation. Some of my favorite takeaways were her entry into porn, which she discovered at a university lecture, and the fact that she still maintains a well-organized spreadsheet for her body count. Now, that's the Casey I know. If you enjoyed this conversation, please support us. You can start by making sure to check out all of Casey's links. And then also, please feel free to leave comments, like, subscribe to this channel. That allows us to keep doing this podcast, keep having these conversations, and keep supporting these amazing people within our business. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.